Hello everyone and welcome back to my morning report analysis videos. This is my FX Trade of the Year video, first week, and we've got 8 symbols or instruments we're going to be looking at. We're going to look at dollar yen, Aussie dollar, Aussie Kiwi, sterling yen, dollar SEK, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and silver and coffee. So let's get into it quickly. So dollar yen basically is moving sideways, still going sideways, nothing really doing it in terms of a great deal. It's slightly recovering, yes, but it's not going on a huge tear to the upside. You could argue that 101.80 is the sort of resistance that basically we're sort of needing to break through now this week, and that will be the level that traders will be looking out for. Today I think that the resistance we need to watch out for is 101.60, a couple of levels there. Interesting that the 101.18 level is providing support again on that chart. So Aussie dollar, come on, has been sort of generally moving. So I mean, look how tight those moving averages are. But slight amount of gains today. Interestingly enough, the Aussie is sort of gaining a little bit of traction to the upside, but it had rolled over to a certain extent and sort of lost a bit of impetus. So these momentum indicators are a bit more neutrally configured. Although, again, as to take into account the slight gains that we've had today, the sort of outlook is slightly improved, but again it's still fairly neutral, I'd say, on Aussie dollar. Now Aussie Kiwi, again, sort of similar story really, sort of moving sideways. I mean, the concern I would have with this pair is that the support at 104.68, sort of 104.70 I suppose you'd say, sort of protects now a head and shoulders top pattern. That could turn into something a bit more more concerning if it does get broken to the downside. I mean, yes, you've had a bit of a positive reaction on Friday into the close and today early doors, but you're not really seeing too much movement to the upside. I'd say it's again more of a neutral configuration really of these moving averages, and also MACD lines sort of rolling over a little bit. Stochastics losing a bit of impetus, but there's a slight improving outlook, but I'm still would be concerned about this turning into a top pattern if you were to see a bit of a break back to the downside and to test that 104.70 level. But resistance levels you're looking at is 105.55 and subsequently the big high at 105.83. But for now we're sort of just holding a little bit of consolidation under 105.44 on that. Sterling yen is interesting. JPY, interesting, because it had been looking to sort of turn around, but obviously in light of today's selling pressure on sterling, the sort of reduced really. It's sort of broken below this support, this initial support. If I can get my crosshair on it, 130.40, broken below that today. That sort of turns you now into a sequence of lower highs and lower lows. Sort of likely to now come back towards the test of the 129.75 area, 129.60. These lows back from early last week, but just breaking below that low from Friday at 130.40 is a bit of a disappointing move. So this sequence of low highs would suggest sort of rallies are being sold into. That's what you'd take out from the declining hourly momentum indicators as well. So a little pop to the RSI on the upside back towards 50 would probably be a chance to sell. Dollar SEK. Dollar SEK under a little bit of pressure at the early doors today, just falling away again, interestingly enough. But generally speaking, you'd still say rangy, isn't it? If you sort of take a step back on that, it's not really doing a great deal. Yes, you could argue sort of mild higher lows through this, but in terms of where we've sort of been in the past sort of week or so, it's been pretty rangy, isn't it? It's not really gone anywhere. That key support around 51, sorry, 851. You'd argue little sort of rallies could be a near-term sort of chance to play this range, but again, it's a difficult one really, because it's not really going anywhere. These momentum indicators are sort of moving towards a bit of a more of a corrective configuration with this RSI below 40, which had been supportive. But again, you could argue, are you going to still play the range? So moving towards the extremes of the range. Does that now mean it's going to get a bounce back? It's a difficult one, I'd say, with the sort of tight trading that you've got here. In terms of your resistance levels, obviously the key level is 862, the overnight level 858.80. But yeah, you could see a bit of a near-term bounce off that support again, with the extreme moves on the RSI. So it's a difficult one. I'd actually start. I'd be looking to play the range, to be honest. Oh, wrong code. Sorry, wrong code. DJI. So Dow Jones. Obviously, it's not started trading yet. But you'd say, again, look how choppy that's been. Really is choppy, isn't it? Up and down all over the place. No real direction whatsoever. And actually, if you looked on the daily chart, you'd see that the daily candles are really sort of quite volatile and choppy as well. So you'd argue, well, I move towards the resistance again. If you saw it, it could be a chance to sell because you've got these corrective candles. Look, that was a corrective candle on Thursday, which induced a bit of a sell-off. You've seen another 1 hour bear key, 1 day reverse, key 1 hour reversal, or bearish engulfing pattern into the close. So maybe you'd see a bit of a turnaround. But generally speaking, equity markets have been a little bit more supportive today. So it's sort of an interesting one. I think the futures are mildly higher. But you'd argue playing the range on these hourly momentum indicators. Certainly, stochastics crossing lower seems to certainly work that one. I'd wait for the confirmation though with that stochastics hourly signal, but it seems as though that sort of resistance does come in around this sort of 18,350, 18,360 area, and maybe that will give you a bit of a sort of a chance to play this range. Silver. Silver's again pretty range bound. It's actually sort of rallied a little bit this morning. You seem to certainly have a support around that sort of $19 area. Seems to be in the last sort of week or so. Every time the market gets towards that, I mean, on the hourly chart, it hasn't had an hourly close below $19. So that would suggest every time it gets out to a 19, it's a sort of a little near-term buying opportunity. You could also equally argue there's a bit of a pivot around that sort of 1935, 1930 area. So it's really tight trading actually on the silver chart. 1920 is a pivot on the daily chart, and I think it's pretty much neutral. And these it's not really sort of going anywhere fast at the moment. These precious metals, both on silver and gold. And our final chart is coffee, which is KCC1. On my charts anyway. I think it's the same on MT4. Yeah, you don't really get such a good view on the hourly chart, sorry. So KCC1. So on the daily chart you do tend to see that there is a little bit of a rolling over. Look at that, those falling stochastics. RSI just threatening, but without confirming the corrective move. I think if you saw the RSI below 50, yes, I'd say that would usher in a bit of a correction. But you've had a fairly neutral reaction today, nothing yet coming out. Support at 148.65, which was 148.75, which is Friday's low. That certainly is something to look out for. The overhead resistance 154.95. But if you sort of broke Friday's low, then you'd be sort of back towards 146, 147 area. 147 being a support, and then you're sort of back at the 145, which is a bit of a pivot line, and also 140. So if this market does move below Friday's low, then I would say it's looking like an increasing corrective move, certainly with the momentum indicators is how they're looking. Well, I wish you good luck in your trading on all the FX Trader of the Year competition pairs and instruments today, and I'll speak to you again.